I think that's what finally clicked, is that like I can turn this white wire into my hot and pass it through on a 3-wire with 2 other conductors in it in order to still be able to have 2 travelers and a hot in this other box.
Good morning, it's Joel Walsman, CEO and Master Electrician of Jefferson Electric. For 2 weeks right now, I'm on vacation, so we figured this would be a great time for you to connect with some other members of our team. So let me introduce to you Sam Dillon. Sam Dillon has a background in utility low voltage. He was an assistant project manager, and more importantly than that, having some industry related experience, he's a fantastic cultural fit at Jefferson Electric. The dude is amazing. Love him. So join us now for a day in the life with Sam Dillon. And if you'd like to consider working at Jefferson Electric as part of our team, check the comments and jump in. Let us know what you see, what you like, and what you'd be doing differently.
When I first started at Jefferson, it was a whole different ballgame from like low voltage stuff. I mean, there's some things that you know kind of correspond or whatever, but most of it is fully different. But what ended up actually like hooking me here, because I mean there's been times where those old companies have asked me if I'm interested in coming back, and I just can't. What hooked me to electrical is turning on a light switch. Like, I know that sounds bizarre, but like running the wire from beginning to end, putting in a fixture, putting in a switch, and flipping it on in front of a customer, like, you don't get a better reaction, you don't get a better feeling, like, and there's something with like let there be light kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, creating light is awesome. And I could do that until the day I die, seriously. It's an absolute blast. It's my favorite thing. I don't think
You've been here for a while, right?
Yeah, I left for like 2 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. But I've been here at Jefferson since December of 2020, actually.
Okay. Anywhere before that, you come in?
I came in to Jefferson as a pretty green electrician. I worked for like low voltage side, like AT&T and a company called Berrycom before, and got interested in it. Yeah, so the company just got me this truck like maybe 2 months ago. It was pretty empty until the last couple of weeks. And then they had me scheduled for a day to build shelving and try out this new system that we're doing here. They ultimately, they usually go with the iron shelving, and they wanted to try out the Milwaukee pack-out system. And so
you had to be the guy that...
with zero carpentry experience, me and Phil, who's another electrician here, built all the custom shelving and stuff. It's still kind of a work in progress, and what's nice about it is that I can keep adjusting stuff to fit my needs as time goes on. And it basically will, once I've got all the material for everything, it'll be a shop on wheels, so I don't have to come here for every single job. Well, I mean, I'll still have to pick up like general materials, but what it's going to cut out on is returning to the shop throughout the day, more or less. So like
throughout the day, okay.
Initially when I got this van, or the nice part was that I had a van, but the hardest part was that the van was empty and it just had my tools in it. And so if I was out on a job site and we needed a single remodel box, or we needed a nail-on box or something like that, yeah, now I've got to drive from Carmel to here or the nearest home store, and then hopefully source it at a home store. And ideally you want to come here, we get better deals, we buy things bulk, things like that, you know what I mean? So, and we have it in stock, we've already paid for it, so there's no real reason to just go buy again. But yeah, like I said, it will be more convenient. Like yesterday, we went out to a job and had very little information on exactly how to execute. And so on the material list, there was like the big item stuff, but the small stuff we didn't have any of.
Yeah.
And so a majority of that stuff was already on the truck, even though I haven't got my full order in yet. And then like things like that we don't do often, but that's nice to have, because I'm not really a commercial guy, is I'll have all my pipe fittings, I'll have watertight connections, stuff like that, and those PVC stuff. I've got outlets back there. I've got just about, like I said, just about anything that I need. And then these are going to be what really changes things, I think, is like I have individual organizers for different types of jobs, basically. I still have to fill some though. So some of them aren't ready yet, but it'll be cool to have. I'm gonna throw this away. Right now, I'm actually gonna go back here and talk to Rufus. There's a license plate waiting for me, hopefully. Rufus, do you know where my license plate is? Tyler messaged me yesterday about it.
It's probably over there.
Wow. So, yeah, this section of the shop is more for those guys. I don't really come back here often unless I'm missing something, and then I talk to them about it. And then up here, this is kind of like a self-service type area. You fill up your stuff boxes, check out tools with the sign-out sheet, that kind of thing, pick up whatever you need. And then this is like job staging. So if I have a new customer or something like that, or right here actually, as they continue to fill up my van stock requests, they've got material staged for whatever you're doing, so you have to kind of find that, and then they have larger job staging behind it. Initially, I had DeWalt when I started, and that was just out of convenience because my uncle gave me a set. And then when I came on to the first job site, everybody on my crew had Milwaukee, and so like if my battery died, I was kind of out of luck, and so I ended up swapping to Milwaukee, so that way I'd have the convenience of everybody having the same thing. Yeah. Also, they have a tool for everything, like everything. Most people do, but like they have a battery-powered caulk gun. So yeah, so they have a tool for absolutely everything, and I really like them. I fell in love with them pretty quick. They work, man. Bruce Carpenter ran over his impact and like snapped it like this, and literally just put it back together, taped it with electrical tape. Yeah.
A week or two ago.
Yeah, and it worked. I have a video of it. Just driving just fine. Yeah, so you can't beat that. Can't beat. Their warranty's really good. I mean, it's not like a lifetime warranty, but they're pretty good about servicing them and that kind of thing. So. But yeah, and the pack out system's awesome.
Yeah. Pack out does seem like it's a standalone.
Well, everybody's trying to like slowly mimic it. Like even Husky locks in. Rigid has like a interlocking system. Tough Built, I think, even has an interlocking system. But my title is lead electrician, but I'm an apprentice electrician still. I'm supposed to start school in August, I believe. I'm already signed up. I just haven't got the email on the beginning date and like what day during the week it is. And then I'll have 4 years of schooling, and then I'll take my test to try to become licensed, which would be really cool, but is way down the line. And right now I'm just trying to focus on making sure jobs don't explode, you know. Right, yeah. I mean, there's not really a wish I would have. I think I've really enjoyed it, the whole process, getting to where I'm at now. Yeah, maybe I should have started with Milwaukee rather than investing a little bit into DeWalt at first, kind of thing. But like, and there's certain tools that like, man, I just couldn't live without. Like I would have bought an oscillator for an electrician, like a multi-tool, whatever people want to call it, is like so essential. when I first started with Milwaukee, I went entry level and got like the brush drill, the brush impact, burned those up within like no time. I don't even know. It was like super negligible the amount of time that those lasted me, or at least the drill. The impact still works. Just completely blew the thing up. Got it smoking real bad one day, and the amount of like I said, I knew I was going to freeze yet. The amount of like demo work or things like that, like when we're cutting 4-inch holes, like it just burns those brush drills up constantly. And so then I went and bought just the brushless motored Milwaukee drill, and that thing just doesn't hold up to other people. Like when we're drilling holes through old wood or something like that, it just doesn't hold up speed wise, ability wise, things like that. So finally, like a year and a half now into it, I bought the Milwaukee fuel set, and like I'll never not buy a Milwaukee fuel product again. Like they are, it is a noticeable difference in performance and stuff, and like I expect not to have to touch another drill for 5 years. Like the thing should last that long at least. And then I also learned how to take care of them a little better. Like I tote my air compressor around with me, and if I'm on a large drywall demo type job where we're cutting a lot of holes in drywall, or we're having to cut paths or things, and blowing out my tools at the end of the day is super essential. Ideally, as an apprentice starting out, like I'd make sure that I get a solid hand tool set, and like start with that. Like the drill and driver are definitely important, but like your hand tools are going to be something that's going to last you a really long time. It's going to be really, really necessary for you to have a solid set of those. And as an apprentice, I would say like take the criticism as much as you can, and don't take it to heart. Like just, you know what I mean, learn from it and move on. If I would have taken the first like residential job that I went to, I had a really bad experience. Like I almost walked away because I felt like I just couldn't do it, and it was the way that I was taught in that moment. It wasn't the way that I learned, really, you know. And just sticking 2 more days and like another electrician showing up and showing me how to do it a different way, that was, or just from a different perspective, not even just a different way, but a different perspective on how to do that, was crucial, because otherwise I probably would have been like, hey man, I'm just not cut out for this. And so just focusing on the bad rather than, hey, they're trying to teach you something here. It's something I would definitely focus on what they're trying to teach you, and don't take it to heart. I think the hardest thing for me to learn coming in as an apprentice was 3-way switches, 3-way and 4-way switches. It's really not that hard of a concept to grasp once you grasp it, but like that initial few times where you're trying to wire up a 3-way system is just, I mean, you don't understand what you're doing, is it really? And then also, like if you did a dead end, switches specifically are way harder than most things, but once you get them, you kind of just have them locked down. But I think that dead end switches and 3-way switches were the most difficult thing for me to grasp. Being able to take a wire and let it identify as a different colored conductor, realizing that they're all just copper on the inside anyway. They don't care what color insulation's around them, you know. That was really hard for me to understand, so I still called white wires neutral wires, black wires hot wires for a really long time. And because I was doing that, it made it more difficult for me to understand those switches. So there's a guy, Randy, who like the way he teaches you it, he doesn't make you feel like man, there's something wrong in my head. And the amount of apprentice electricians that Jefferson has, like, you're not the only one struggling with that concept. And there's guys that have been here longer that still don't really understand 3-way, 4-way, and dead-end switches, or how to dead-end those types of switches, 3-way switches. And so, like, yeah, I felt like initially, man, what is going on? I don't know. Why can't I understand? Why can't I grasp this? Everything else has been so easy for me. This is like that. Like I said, that was the hardest thing for me to understand. And every time that I'd go back to switch, I felt bad because I had to ask every single time. And so, I mean, over time though, like, you start picking it up. There was like a defining moment where it just clicks. I'm like, I don't have to ask anymore. Like, oh, I know how this works now. I don't know when that moment happened, but I was thankful when it did. I think the light bulb finally went off when I stopped identifying them as white or as hot and neutral wires, and started identifying them as just wire. This white wire, this black wire, this red wire does these things, because I can hook up, I wouldn't suggest it, but I can hook up my hot on what you would call the ground wire, and it doesn't have any kind of insulation around it. It'd be pretty dangerous, but you could do that, and it still works the same way ultimately. And I think that's what finally clicked, is that, like, I can turn this white wire into my hot and pass it through on a 3-wire with 2 other conductors in it, in order to still be able to have 2 travelers and a hot in this other box, or a hot and a common in this other box. And once I finally started realizing that, and just stopped calling it the other stuff, then I stopped getting my terminology kept getting mixed up. And so when somebody would be on the other end of those switches and they'd say, well, your common is your white and your 2 travelers are your black and red on this one, which isn't common to happen. But if that was the case, then I'd be all confused, because my hot wire always went on this screw and my travelers were always these color wires, and they would go on these screws. So once I finally stopped identifying them that way, that was kind of what finally did it. So Inglewood CDC, we started doing an office remodel for them, and I've done like small commercial, like, hey, here, we need to upgrade this, we need to run a circuit here, kind of thing. Small stuff, real small stuff. This is like a full commercial build that still I just don't feel like I'm ready for, if I'm being honest. Lots of pipe work, lots of MC that I don't really mess with often. Code requirements are fully different. And commercial, like, I don't even know where to start when I get there. So we went and did the demo work portion of it, and like, I felt good that day. It was when I finally got the drawings, which are sitting right here, that I'm still studying, and that's when I was just like, man, I don't know about this, if I'm being honest. And so I've been talking with Matt a lot, and he sent me some good information, and he's been pretty helpful. I'm gonna see, they weren't ready. The other thing is when we got to the job, while I wasn't necessarily ready for the job, they really weren't ready for us to be there yet, even though they pushed for us to come early. And so it was like this weird, like, I have no idea what the first step is when I got onto site. And so we ended up having to pull off anyway, because they didn't have walls built in some areas and stuff. And so that kind of gave me like a sigh of relief for a minute, so I could go through the prints a little bit more and ask more questions and stuff. As an apprentice, you're going to constantly come up against stuff that you've never done before. Like, for instance, I just did a under cabinet lighting. I've only really done under cabinet twice. All my jobs are always knob and tube rewires, and so most of the time, like, I'm not, over the last 2 years or whatever, I've not really had to deal with a lot of the fit and finish, like, fine tuning stuff. But as certain things get popular, like under cabinet lighting, you're going to start to do it more. And so, like, I've only done it a couple of times, and I know how to run the circuits, but I I feel weird saying this, but I don't get to finish a lot of jobs, or like I used to not get to finish a lot of jobs that I started. I'd get pushed into the crew and start doing the rough end and stuff, and other guys would finish those jobs. So under cabinet was something I never got to really touch until I became a lead electrician. And Jeremiah works for the company as a PM, met me on site and showed me how to do it the first time. And it's really honestly pretty simple, and you get the hang of it pretty quick. But I had some really challenging under cabinet lighting to run this week at a job called Grade and Construction that I started. Some things happened with the cabinets. It was actually like inside the cabinet lighting, not underneath. The custom cabinet builders didn't build it correctly. Well, like I had a game plan when I walked into the job. When I look at the custom cabinets, they're fully different, fully laid out different. There's no glass shelving. There's no open box design so that I can run a big strip around the outside edge. And so you have to pivot, and you have to do something that you're not comfortable with and you've never had the experience of doing, but it turns out great. Like I absolutely love the end result of what I did there, and I would have never done if I was just worried about being uncomfortable. Yeah, it took me 2 hours to do it, but if I was focused on being uncomfortable and like, hey, step back and let somebody else do it, I would never have that experience under my belt, and like I wouldn't feel confident enough to do something like it in the future. So there's been a lot of times. I mean, this job, like I said, this trade, as it continues to evolve, as people like, design shows and stuff like that come up with new ideas, you're going to be uncomfortable all the time. And that's a huge reason why I like it. I like having to problem solve. And that's like a large portion of the reason, that and turning on light switches, is why I like to stay in this trade. My kind of overarching go-to guy is Randy. He works here. He's got 30 years of experience. He's from down south, you know what I mean? He's very very forward with how he says stuff, but man, the way that he teaches you, I swear I owe everything that I know to Randy. When it comes down to actual execution of different things. If it's a code-related question, unfortunately he's leaving the company, but Zach's he's solid with the code book, really good. If he doesn't know it, then Joel knows it, or Ryan or Sean or Matt know it. Those guys, those are my code guys. If I can't get a hold of one of them, the other one will answer that code question for me like that. And I can always try to look it up myself, which I should do, but most of the time they know. They're like, okay, 110.a, you know what I mean? And they already know exactly where it's at. I think what gets you into those kind of relationships is working with the guys and not being afraid to be vulnerable and ask, if you just go and do something like that, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I'd probably say to an apprentice is don't just go do it because you feel like you know how to do it. Like, make sure you know how to do it. If you're going to do it wrong, not only does that cause problems, make you stay on the job longer, mess up things for the customer, potentially hurt people, but you're never going to learn that way if you just assume okay, I can figure it out on my own. And some things, yeah, you have to, but most things, somebody else on that job site or within your company has already been there, done that, and took a souvenir photo home with them. You know what I mean? They already know how to do it, and they probably have a better way of doing it than what you're going to try to figure out anyway, something easier. Randy specifically, I don't know how many times I'm over here just sweating, trying to do something, and didn't ask what the best way to do it would be. And he comes over, he says, hey man, you can keep going the way you want, or I can show you an easier way to do that. And he'll step in and he'll tell me what to do, and I swear it takes me 5 minutes every time. And it's been the most frustrating thing, but also been the biggest blessing, because the guy just knows. He knows. He's been in it long enough. So those apprentices, man, I would say, find those people, build relationships with them, get to know them. You know what I mean? Most guys, at least from my experience in this trade, aren't trying to go to the grave with those secrets and those tricks. You know what I mean? They want you to be successful. And the guys that don't and that want to keep that stuff, keep their cards close to their chest, that think that it gives them some kind of like job security or something. I'm not sure exactly why they do it that way, but those guys, like, I just wouldn't invest that effort as much. You know what I mean? Focus on the guys that are really trying to pour into you and that are open and respect it and be thankful for it. You know what I mean? Because they don't have to. So as a lead now, there's certain guys where, like, I just know, okay, he's not gonna want to come to me and ask me how to do this, and he'll tell me he knows how to do this, but ultimately I really need to get in there, and it's the way that you talk to those people, because ultimately as a lead, I'm leading people through things, and it's more managing people than it is even job sites. And so learning those personalities and knowing what guys' abilities are is something that takes time, but those guys, yeah, I've had them. I take pictures and I take them side by side, like, you know what I mean, one-on-one kind of thing, take them to the side and say, hey, you know, I don't know, you know what I mean? It depends on the guy, but I don't know if you did this directly, but one of the guys on the job site the other day did this way. Let me explain to you why we wouldn't do it this way. And show them the picture, show them the end result picture that I'll take or whatever. Or if they're on site with me and something like that happens, and I can use that as a training moment. Some of them aren't really receptive to it, but most of the time, guys are like, okay, cool. And then they do it easier the next time, kind of like Randy, letting me sit there and do the trial and error, fishing a wire or something like that. And he's like, hey, there's a better way of doing this, and this is why we do it this way. Yeah, like I said, with this, it's Lauren Wood Builders. We're doing it is a full new construction. They had an older home here. They bought the property. I believe the guy actually has his like childhood best friend like diagonally behind him, and that's why he bought this property. Tore down the house and started fresh. So it's pretty insane. It's a really, really cool job. Really high voltage ceilings. It's got these panels that I'm not really SIPS panels. What'd you say, buddy?
Builders are running commercial floor sanders.
Sweet, sounds
Perfect
great.
Day to
film. Yeah, so Zach probably knows better than me though, for sure. But they're doing these things called like SIPS panels, right, Zach?
Yeah.
And they're like they're prefabbed with like pipe and boxes already in them. Yeah. And then
structural insulated panels.
Yeah, structural insulated panels. And so that was, I'm sure, very challenging for Zach. Like I said, I did the only portion that I've done so far was some of the open frame stuff in the basement. So learning a new product, again, that uncomfortability we talked about. Also in here, there's like 3 total kitchens or something like that. So there's a kitchen for the guy, a kitchen for his wife, and an outdoor kitchen. Neither of them are chefs either. So it's like, yeah,
competitive.
I don't know if it's competition. They both like to cook. They like to do that, but I guess they don't want to cook together in the same space. So
We ran wires and we backfilled a bit, but we didn't like complete the stub ups and the terminations. So that's something that'll have to be done. The cabinetry and stuff is coming in July, so you probably won't be here for another 3 weeks.
Yeah, so these are just disconnects, right, Zach?
No,
on
they're
these
automatic
guys?
transfer switches.
Oh, for the generators.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
These
these are
14 threes go out until the generator turn on, when power's lost.
Yeah, so these will talk to generators. These are just going to be your regular panels. These are large panels. It's a 400 amp service.
Yep.
And I see we didn't go with all GFI breakers. Did that?
Yeah, because we amended it to the 2009 code.
Okay, yeah, so initially this job was pulled on 2020 code, which changes a lot of requirements. So basically all of these would have been GFI protected breakers, and it got amended in 2009
Just the price
for financial reasons.
Like $5 and $20.
Yeah, it's like 4 times the amount.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so it's a 400 amp service, 2 individual 200s on each side. I have some pretty cool pictures of when we first did it. 2 2.5 inch LBs. This was pretty complicated to get it inside because of the type of supports that they have for the floor, and getting it all to fit and level and make it all pretty. So the reason we went through the house today was because Zach is exiting from the company, and during that transition I'm going to be taking over some of his projects, and this being probably the largest one. Most of the other ones I can just kind of transition into and not really have to do as extensive as a walkthrough as we did today. With this being a $4 million home, there's a lot of intricate technology that isn't done on most houses. For one of those, as we talked about earlier, is the under cabinet lighting trend that's kind of kicking up. Having over a mile of that in this house is going to be a challenge in itself. The amount of transformers, the amount of smart devices as well. Something that as we're transitioning into newer technology that you need is going to be like neutrals in all your switches, stuff like that, because otherwise those smart devices won't work. So that was a challenge that Zach had to take on for this job, as well as making sure that there were neutrals available. Earlier we talked about dead end switches, and so sometimes in that application you won't have a neutral in a switch because it's only necessary at the light. Other than that, I mean, the things that are a little intimidating for me as a pretty new lead is just the largeness of this job, the sheer scale of it. It's something that I haven't had the opportunity to take on. I'm definitely confident in my ability to do it and my crew, but there's going to be a lot of small details and fine tuning that'll end up needing to happen as we continue on this project. Some of the things I'm pretty excited about on this job are going to be like the smart mirrors, all of the motion sense for the under cabinet lighting for the night lights and stuff like that in the bedrooms. Next steps are going to be I'm going to kind of itemize my list that I took today, all the notes, kind of make almost as if it's like a punch list basically. Make sure that we have all the material on site, go over all of the drawings with Randy, because he's been here basically through the entire project as well. As I go through those, I'll probably notate what still needs to be done in certain locations and highlight those areas, so that way I don't lose anything that hasn't been done. Because as you saw in the walkthrough, a lot of stuff is still in the wall. You still have to cut access holes and pull stuff out. And when that ends up being the case, I've been on multiple jobs where like boxes get covered up and nobody ever knows that it's there because you temporarily wired it in and something passes through. So making sure that we don't miss anything like that, not being here for all of the rough end, is going to be something that I'm going to have to take a lot of time and care and watch over. But at that point, then I'll get with the builder and start coming up with a game plan on when to come back. The whole house smart ecosystem is something that's like basically becoming a standard, and if you haven't started on learning that kind of stuff, because it is really challenging. A lot of the switches are wired different, a lot of the devices are wired different in order to be able to speak with each other. Interconnection on a lot of things, like the smoke system, where it can call the fire department for you if it goes off. That kind of stuff is basically the way that everybody's houses are starting to go towards. And if you, like I said, if you haven't started learning it, it's probably time to start. Under cabinet lighting is one of the things that has become like pretty much a loved thing by every customer that I've talked to. Any job that I'm going on now, that we make sure to ask that question, because a lot of times they'll forget or not think about it in that moment. It is difficult to install after the fact of drywall being up, and by the time that you get here and all the toe kick lighting's in, all the up lighting's in, you turn on those switches and you got to see customers' faces. It's awesome. They absolutely love it. It's something that is definitely worth your time and learning. So just left Laurenwood Builders project. It is a customer who just recently moved into a home not too long ago. Still kind of has boxes in the garage kind of situation. Super sweet lady, made us coffee when we came to the job site, stuff like that, like really nice lady. And her and her husband who have decided on some lighting upgrades that they want to do. So we're gonna go and help out a crew that is adding in some low voltage lighting circuits to a finished space. So there's going to be some drywall damage and repair that's going to need to be done, or at least scheduled. And then also we are going to set up to install a large chandelier. It's got like 3 whole boxes of glass. I don't know exactly how many pieces that it's going to be, but it's going to be a fun one for sure. I'm curious to see if the ladder that we have on site is going to work for it. It is in a stairwell, and realistically, I think we probably could have used a 14 or 16 foot ladder, but I don't know that they would fit. So I think right now on site we have a 12. And so we'll probably set that up at some point and see if it's even possible with what we have on site right now. We might have to source a little giant or something like that where we can build it on the stairwell basically, and be able to get a better angle at the fixture. The difference really from being just like a general apprentice to now a lead, for Jefferson at least, I'm tracking the job from start to finish with my PM, alongside my PM, ordering materials, picking up materials, training guys on site, making sure that the job gets done from 0% to 100%, not forgetting that last 5, that's so crucial. And ultimately the responsibility of completion falls upon me. And I've got to make sure that I've got guys that are competent at doing it, making sure that I am giving information to management, to scheduling, to make sure that we are set up for success. There's a lot more overtime as well that has happened with this, a lot more anxiety when it comes down to trying to figure out like exactly how certain aspects of the job are going to be completed. But ultimately, like, you're the guy that comes up with the solutions, or at least helps or asks for help coming up with solutions to overcome obstacles, and that's why I really like being in the lead spot now. I'd say the right fit for Jefferson is somebody that's willing to learn, somebody that's teachable, has a good attitude, and a solid work ethic. I've seen a lot of guys come in that try to like breeze by in the background, and it's kind of a harsh way of saying it, but I just feel like they're never going to last if you do that. The guys that come in and want to get their hands dirty and really want to learn and ask questions, those are the kind of people that they want to hire. People that also are that keep integrity as a high priority, that are open and honest and willing to accept criticism, as well as willing to give critical criticism, like when it comes down to like something that's going to actually build people up in the end. Not somebody that's going to be harsh and just mean with the way that they say that kind of stuff. But I think the big thing is like I said, integrity, being able to own your mistakes, which I can show you one on this job actually that happened that I had to talk to my PM about, where we drilled through we drilled up through a piece of trim on this house, and so now we have to fix that, but making sure that immediately, as soon as it happens, talking to the customer, letting your teammates know, hey, this happened, I screwed up, we're gonna move on from it. But those are the kind of people that you want on your team. Jefferson's successful because we really do focus on premium quality. We're not just like a guy in a van that shows up and will hack something together just to make it work. We make sure that it is done the right way from start to finish. They also are a company that, like I said, I mean, integrity is a huge thing. They're open. Jefferson as a company is open to their employees as well about things that are happening behind the scenes, reasons why they make decisions. They're very forthright, or whatever, however you say that. They're very forthright with information, so that way everybody's in the loop. And they're also willing to accept criticism at the highest level. Joel in meetings will say, you know, hey, you can step into he says you can step into like the danger zone or something like that, I think is what he calls it. And he's very open and receptive to feedback. And there's been multiple occasions where people step in and they'll give their opinion on something, and sometimes they're like, hey, that's a great thought, we're gonna start working on it. And other times it's, hey, that's actually a way better way than we've thought about implementing this strategy or this idea. Let's start doing that right now. And they're willing to roll and try different things. And I think that everybody's been really supportive when it comes down to the staff. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that you're successful. If you're not treating your field guys the right way, then you don't really have a huge chance at staying afloat, because they're the guys that are putting in all the feet on the ground, if you will. This job today, it'll take the remainder portion of our day. I'm gonna have to scope out where they're at when I get onto site, and see if it's even going to be able to be completed by the end of the day. This may be one of those projects that rolls over in tomorrow. Once I make my assessment on site on how far they've got since yesterday when I left them, I'm going to make a call to Doug and let him know. He's in charge of our scheduling, and let him know if we're going to need an extra day, how many guys it's going to take to finish it out, things like that. That way we can schedule accordingly. Okay.
So I know we'll be consistent with that, but like if you do them in the front there, it kind of brings the light out
further with these long counters anyway.
So you're gonna need your transformer. I don't know if you have one of those white caps or not.
I thought a box got left. It's my fault. I didn't check what got left and what didn't.
I talked to the homeowner about the two front fixtures here. I took all the photos. I'm gonna send them to Jose.
Okay.
He's about a week and a half out right now.
Okay.
So.
You want me to hang or no?
No, these two.
Didn't think so.
Because we got to come back to do that anyway.
Yeah, I got to cut that whole square out.
So yeah, I'd get that can out, cap it, and then we can cut the wafer in. The good thing is where this can is now, it's not sitting on the window. So at least with the wafer, we can actually sit in it.
Clean it up, yeah.
Look a little bit nicer. Mm-hmm. But I would hold off on these two.
Okay.
Test them.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So you need a transformer, right?
Yeah, I'll need a transformer.
You need a white cap.
I'll need at least one, yeah, if not two, if we don't figure that out. Cool. And then we haven't messed with the staircase or anything like that, have we?
Nope.
I was curious about the ladder reaching. I was gonna try to set it up, and
we can check it real quick.
Because all I've got is a 12 here.
We'll have to move all those boxes right there first.
Yeah. We don't have to do it right this second, but yeah.
Oh, is over there coming to the film?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you trying to do?
So I can show you. on the stairwell over here. Unfortunately, we had to cut a lot more drywall than expected because there was some blocking and stuff like that, but drilling through that blocking to get all these downlights, when one of the guys drilled up, it popped out, so, which happens. It's unfortunate, and he was being really careful, but it just happens. So yeah, fun stuff. So we're all this under cabinet lining, that's where these access holes are right here. It's all going down into a finished basement area, and then that is all gonna have to be ran down a trench, I believe is what they decided on. That's gonna run you into an unfinished area under here, where these sconces all have junctions underneath, and then run up to some switches on that side, and they're switched separately. Jesse's installing one of them now. They're really heavy sconces. So yeah, that's what they're working on putting back right now, is that trench of drywall, just to temp it in for when the drywall repair guy comes and he can patch it a lot quicker. And then all that wire is gonna has already probably got ran down here. And then I'm assuming this light is still on, this circuit's on. And that all comes into here, which we're gonna install our transformer up top. So that way we can get that all switched over to low voltage. This is where the chandelier is gonna go. We're seeing if we can do it with this size ladder.
We can.
We got to get into the attic and build some blocking in, probably. And they bought a medallion to cover up any gappage for the box too.
I tell you what, flip this ladder around.
Be easier.
Yeah.
All right. So really what this job is that it's a finished space. So you want to try to minimize drywall damage, and that can prove to be really difficult sometimes. These guys do a pretty good job at it. Realistically, I mean, they've done it with as minimal as pretty much any crew could ever do. Otherwise, I mean, the other thing that I'd say is kind of unique about this job is the weight of the sconces. These sconces have like a large glass top to them, so they want to yank out like this, and so we had to build backing on a lot of them, so that way we could put fan rated or fixture rated boxes that could hold something that weight. There'll be 2 sconces on this side switched by themselves, and then 2 on this side. And again, with it being a finished space, we didn't want to trench the ceiling like we normally would, and they had that unfinished space in the basement, so we were able to fish down wires. Those are what these access holes over here are for. Fish down wires into the basement, and then run a single switch leg from that on each side into the box. And then we jumped, our hot for those got jumped off of an outlet. It's kind of a conglomeration. Typically that's what it is on my crews. I don't want people thinking that they don't have a voice, and so I always ask what they think first. We usually come up with something. I think that put them in the J boxes was probably my idea, because I didn't want to have them fish 4 wires up, but they're smart enough. I mean, Randy showed us a really cool trick with the trim over here, and like just a lot of added parts. Otherwise, you just wouldn't come up with that solution. So yeah, like over here, before we even cut, to be able to find out where we needed to cut, he used a fixture wire that he's got that's real long, really sturdy. I was able to drill straight through here on the edge of the quarter round, and that went all the way through. And so now all you need is a little tiny dab of caulk, and then that would cover it. And we tried, sometimes that can avoid this hole even being cut, because if you can drill up and then just fish your wire up to that top hole, that'll help. But in this case, we couldn't get our wire up, and so we had to cut a little access hole there. Phil and Jesse are currently wiring up the switches for the sconces on each end of the room. those are customers provided smart switches. We did have some troubles with them working in three-way application, but they work perfectly in single pull application, and so they requested that we still use them for those. Those will work with their Alexa, so that they just tell her to turn on the lights, and she turns on the lights in whatever room she asks. Ultimately, there's two ways of installation. You can install it directly to like an exposed beam, or we used a bracketed box that was rated for the weight of the chandelier. We swapped out up here. There was a 6-inch can, and we swapped it out with that bracketed box. And we got lucky because we were going to have to use a medallion to cover up that extra gap for the standard 4-inch bracketed box that we use. But the canopy on the chandelier itself is wide enough to cover it, so that's always awesome. And then we thought we were going to have a much longer chain, but with the customer's preference, we're actually going to basically have no chain. We're going to have one link with all of the pieces that you have to secure the chandelier here. And so Jesse's wiring that up right now. He's wiring the additional support on there right as we speak. And once we get that hung, all we got to do is wire it up, put the canopy up, and then start hanging a bunch of pieces of glass or crystals. Yeah. So he's just trying to snug those wires in there as close as possible, so that way they don't get in the way of those decorative nuts.
This way. Go. You're good.
There you go. And then once those decorative nuts are in, we can shove the rest of that wire loop that we left out there, secure it, and then we just start hanging crystals. That's cool. That's going to be really cool at night. Oh, even further. You can see the whole thing. So this is a driver. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but this is a driver that will convert. This will convert the 14 over to that low voltage signal that it needs to be. Thank you, sir. Should be good. All right. You did save a life. I appreciate that. I've been shocked more times than I could tell you about.
Worst shock.
You probably could find something that just plugs into an outlet. If you're gonna do low voltage under cabinet lighting, no. But they do have those like, they like stick. They're kind of, you can order them on Amazon and stuff like that. They have lights that just stick. They're just strip lights, and some of them have like batteries. Some of them plug into an outlet, like I said. But if you want something a little more long term, this is probably the way to go. Or the day that I ended up thinking that I wasn't fit for this, all I was doing, I came into my first residential job. So I shadowed first with Jefferson Electric on a solar job. And then on my first residential job, I came in and the guy heard that I had a little bit of experience with low voltage stuff, but he just assumed that I had some experience with like wiring outlets and stuff like that, and I didn't. And he was like, hey, can you go do all the terminations in the kitchen counter? And like, first off, had no idea what that meant at all. I had no clue what he was talking about. So I asked, and he kind of looked at me like I just was like I shouldn't have been there. And he came in and kind of explained it quickly to me without showing me how to do something. And so then I went in and did what he had said, or what I believed he had said, incorrectly. And then that's when the certain guy came in and kind of pushed me out of the way and just did it for me. And that's not a really good way to teach or learn. And at that point, I felt like just defeated. I was like, yeah, it's just not meant to be. I'm not supposed to be this electrician. I guess I need to go back to my old job, kind of thing. And he, luckily, another guy on that same job site came up and was like, hey, let me show you how to do that, what he just did, and kind of saved me in that situation, and kind of reassured me that, like, yeah, no, you're not going to know how to do that without being taught. And like I said, it was a pretty simple thing that I do every day now, but not today, I guess. I mean, like I said, I kind of get to do it here. And what that was if you have a bunch of wires that need to go under the same wire nut, and you need to twist them all together, to pre-twist them before you put them in a wire nut, you want to make sure that you don't have a bunch of jacket or insulation inside that wire nut. It makes for a better connection. There's a couple of different reasons, but when I did it, I had my jacket kind of lined up like this, and when I did that, that meant only a tiny bit of that top wire was really in there, and then like it was all over the insulation here, and then once you trimmed it back in order to put it under a wire nut, it was a really kind of cruddy connection and could slip out or could have all kinds of different problems. So when they showed me how to do it the right way, then, you know, it just takes a little practice and a little bit of grip strength, and you can put however many really you want under a wire nut. It just gets more and more difficult as you keep adding it in. But okay, yeah, I'm just switching this smart switch out because it's dimmable. When we turn it on, the under cabinet lighting flickers a lot, and I've had that problem before with dimmers. I think there's a product you can buy that I could find out for you what that's called, that you can connect in here for under cabinet lighting, low voltage lighting. There's some or a specialty driver that you have to install for that to work. Much better.
No dimmer on the other.
There's no, on this, yeah.
You're gonna leave that one?
That one I'll leave, yeah, and then I just use a 2-gang, one switch, one toggle, or one Decora plate. So Company Cam is an app that we'll use to record job progress from before start to after. What'd he say? I was downstairs talking to him, okay? I know. I told him, I was like, hey.
Some of us are just natural born movie stars.
Well, that's why you should be wearing the mic, buddy. Yeah, here, look, I'm gonna take a picture of you with it. Do that again, Marcus. That's a good picture. There you go. That's a good picture. Yeah, it'll be on Company Cam. So yeah, so I'll take pictures and
kind of final of a day's work, right?
Yeah, so we'll upload all the pictures to Company Cam. I'll go through and make any notes necessary for return trips. I'll post to our Slack channel called WEO, and then like I said, I'll get a hold of the drywaller. He'll come out, and then we'll come on the return trip and finish the last bit of buttoning up.